You think revenge is about anger? No. These are acts of revenge so cold that history will record them. They thought it was over. They thought the story ended with a body on the ground, a kingdom stolen, a name erased. But history has a recurring glitch. Sometimes the person you bury comes back different. Not, I'm upset. Not, I want justice. Different like a walking consequence. Tonight, we're not doing cute revenge. We're doing the kind of revenge that makes an entire society go, okay, noted, never again. Story 1 starts with a widow who turned diplomacy into a weapon. Story 1, Olga of Kiev, the widow who invented "Do Not Try Me." In the year 945, Prince Igor of Kievan Rus goes to collect tribute from the Drevlian tribe. He doesn't come back. The Drevlians kill him, and they don't just kill him. They think they've solved a political problem, because Igor's heir Sviatoslav is still a child. So the logical move is to marry Igor's widow Olga to their prince, and basically absorb the whole state. Imagine sending a marriage proposal to the woman whose husband you just murdered. That is not confidence. That is a death wish with paperwork. Olga answers like a politician, calm, professional. She tells the Drevlians, "Sure, send your best men to escort me. Let's do this properly." So they send an elite delegation. Olga greets them with honor and orders a trench dug. Then she has the entire delegation thrown into it and buried alive. No speech, no warning, just, "Welcome, here is your grave." Then she sends a message back. Great start. Send more envoys. The more noble, the better. The Drevlians, still not understanding what kind of movie they're in, send a second delegation. Olga invites them to bathe in a nice hot bathhouse first, because, hospitality. They go in, she locks the doors, and burns the bathhouse down with them inside. At this point, you'd think the Drevlians would stop participating. They do not. Olga then arrives at Igor's tomb and holds a funeral feast, a truce gesture, a cultural ritual, a "let's heal." The Drevlians show up. They drink, they relax. Then Olga's soldiers move in and slaughter them. Hundreds, possibly thousands, depending on the account. And if you think that's the end, that's just Olga warming up. She lays siege to the Drevlian capital, Iskoristan. The city holds out, so she offers mercy. "All I want," she says, "is a small tribute from each household. Just 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows." The city is relieved. That's nothing. They hand over the birds. Olga's men tie flammable material to the birds' feet. At night, they release them. The birds fly home, to nests, under roofs, and the city ignites from the inside like a lantern. The Drevlians don't lose a battle. They lose the concept of safety. Olga didn't just punish murder. She rewrote the rule book. If you touch my family, I will turn your entire civilization into a cautionary tale. And right when you think you've seen peak revenge, Story 2 is about men who played dead for 2 years, so their enemy would stop watching. Story 2, The 47 Ronin, Revenge by Patience and Performance. Japan, early 1700s. A lord named Asano Naganori is humiliated by a powerful court official, Kira Yoshinaka. Asano snaps and attacks Kira. In this world, that single moment is enough. Asano is ordered to commit seppuku. His lands are taken. His samurai become ronin, masterless, socially dead, and Kira walks away alive. Now here's the thing about a revenge story. The fastest revenge is rarely the best revenge. So the ronin do something terrifying. They wait. They scatter. They act broken. They act drunk. They act like they've moved on. Their leader, Oishi Yoshio, plays the role so convincingly that spies report, he's done, he's finished, he's harmless. Kira relaxes, security drops. 2 years pass. Then, on a winter night, the Ronin regroup in Edo. They split into teams, and they storm Kira's mansion. It's not a duel, it's not a fair fight, it's a planned extraction. They cut through guards, they search room by room. They corner Kira, they kill him. Then they do the coldest part. They take his head and carry it to their master's grave as an offering. And after completing the revenge, they do not run. They turned themselves in, because the point was never survival. The point was, you can destroy our lord, you cannot destroy our oath. The authorities sentenced most of them to seppuku. Public opinion largely supports them, and the story becomes immortal. Revenge, but dressed in ceremony. Violence, but framed as loyalty. And that's what makes it scarier. It wasn't rage, it was discipline. But if you think revenge is always honor, no. Story 3 is Revenge is Wildfire, because Rome tried to civilize someone's family. Story 3, Boudica, the revenge that turned cities into ash. Rome and Britain, around AD 60. Boudica is queen of the Iceni. Her husband dies, and Rome decides this is the perfect moment to take everything. They seize property, they tighten control, and according to Roman accounts, the punishment gets personal. Boudica is flogged. Her daughters are assaulted. Rome didn't just conquer land, they tried to conquer dignity. So Boudica does what Rome never expects a client queen to do. She unites tribes, she raises an army, and then she hits Roman settlements like a storm. Camulodunum falls, Londinium is abandoned and then burned. Verulamium is destroyed. This is not a rebellion. This is a message written in flames. You don't get to do that to us and keep breathing normally. For a moment, it works. Rome is terrified. Then the Roman governor, Suetonius Paulinus, gathers a smaller but disciplined force and forces a final battle. The Britons have numbers. Rome has tactics. Rome wins. And Boudica vanishes from the story, either dying by illness or poison, depending on the tradition. But the revenge is permanent in another way. For Rome, Britain is no longer a simple province. It becomes a place that can explode. And for history, Boudica becomes something rare, a symbol of vengeance that didn't end in victory, but still changed the psychology of the empire. Now, story 4 is different, because sometimes revenge isn't one person. Sometimes revenge is an entire island deciding in one night, we are done. Story 4, the Sicilian Vespers, when a crowd becomes a blade. Sicily, 1282. The island is under Angevin rule, French authorities, heavy control, resentment boiling for years. Then comes the spark. Accounts differ on the exact trigger: harassment, an insult, a shove, something small that lands on a mountain of anger. And the mountain moves. A riot erupts in Palermo and spreads fast. This isn't rebels versus soldiers anymore. This is neighbors dragging neighbors into the street because of the language they speak. Over the following weeks, thousands of Frenchmen are killed across the island. It's messy. It's brutal. It's indiscriminate. The kind of revenge that doesn't ask, were you personally guilty? It asks, are you part of the system that hurt us? And the fallout is huge. The uprising helps ignite a wider conflict in the Mediterranean. Kingdoms get involved, alliances flip, the region destabilizes. All because one population decided, we don't negotiate our rage anymore. So what's the lesson here? Revenge comebacks are rarely fair. They're rarely clean. The people who come back with a new identity. Olga came back as a legend that cities feared. The Ronin came back as ghosts with a schedule. Boudica came back as fire with a crown. Sicily came back as a crowd that turned history's steering wheel. And the most terrifying part? Every one of these stories starts the same way. Someone powerful thinks, they won't do anything. And history replies, oh, they will.